This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
Anthony for three. Bang!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast, episode number 77, with your hosts, Ruckus, always causing a ruckus. Come on.
And it is Spenace the Menace with this show going on and rocking the double sevens for this episode title, or at least episode number anyway.
And also, at the time of this recording, we are also having the Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and the Chiefs, where currently it is 7-7. And the Chiefs at this point in the episode are looking to crawl back into that touchdown lead. Anyways, we'll have the starting lineup as usual. We'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll have our high heat and the color commentary. And of course our film room. And then our stud and dud. So, do you want me to start with what I've been up to, or do you want to go right ahead at it?
And it's Thanksgiving week. Let's go for it here.
Okay.
For it, Ruckus.
All right. Well, I've been playing Madden and on my main franchise with the Chiefs, and I actually restarted it because there was a lot of, I forgot to turn trade deadline off, so I couldn't just trade players that were on the current Chiefs roster at a certain point, and I just wanted the more active players and stuff like that too, because I couldn't find them, and I'm a big junkie for having players that are on the active roster currently playing on the team. But anyways, that, and I tried to get back into Battlefield 2042 because the game started to blossom more into what is just, it's getting better, but at the same time it's still Battlefield. I was just trying to get back into it to see how things were going, because I saw that a lot of people were playing it again. And then I've been playing Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways. I tried to start getting into the first Watch Dogs game again. I remember playing the absolute snot out of the first game. I even completed it on the 360 and beat it on the Xbox One. And by the way, if you randomly hear me pause at certain moments, I'm probably watching the game, trying to understand what's going on in the game for both the Chiefs and Eagles. But anyways,
Focus, Ruckus. Focus. We are on the air recording.
All right, you Chiefs hater, choosing the Eagles over the Chiefs. I see how you be. Anyways, Spenace, how are you doing?
Sorry, I can't help it with Fat Sexy Batman.
Well, you could go with the one with the Swifty crush. Come on now.
I mean, not a Swifty, but a Kelsey fan. But I had to side with Jason again.
Boo. Boo. We all know Travis is the funnier brother of the two. I do like the story that he tells about getting.
That is debatable.
I do love the story about Jason passing out drunk on the first date with his wife.
with Kylie. But.
And the stories about being in flip-flops while it's like 40 out in Philly at a bar. That just sounds super relaxing. Anyways, sorry, Spenace.
But I will say that I have continued watching The Big Bang Theory. I am now on season 3. But the big game that I've been still doing Super Mario Brothers Wonder. But I now have, in terms of preparing for a future project.
Hold that phone. Touchdown Kansas City. Travis Kelce gets a touchdown to make it a 14-7 lead pending the extra point. All right, go ahead, Spenace.
Hey, now where was I? Preparing for a future project that does not include the Super Bowl franchise race, which we are now well into. I have been playing some of the games that I have, some of the ones that I had not gotten all the way to in 2023. And my big landing happened to be Baldur's Gate this time around. And once I got started, I just am having the hard time wanting to put it down. Because, and I'm sure that you've probably noticed this, like, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, sir. I have. What
This
about it?
game is it is pretty much the closest thing to playing D&D without having the paper, pencil, and dice.
I thought
in front of
Skyrim
you.
was pretty much that.
No. No, like, you have legitimate rolls. Like, rolling the dice in this game. The universe, D&D.
Okay.
Everything is full two-form D&D in its own unique story. You pretty much can have a whole bunch of different unique scenarios happen, so it feels like a friend of mine's experience playing the game is much different than how I go about it, because of the class variety, the varieties in scenarios, and how you spec a character. So there is so many levels to this that you could bring about so many different experiences that it is quite difficult to be able to really have and go through the exact same experience from end to end twice.
Not gonna lie with you, no surprise here. When it came to D&D, my main character that I played in my family game was a dragonborn called Sir Ruckus. No shocker there at all.
Yeah, but it is a, and that is, this is you're getting a small little teaser of how I'm going to describe this thing and why I feel that it is a very serious contender for Game of the Year for the Game Awards, which will be at the beginning of December. And I have yet to fully complete my vote because I'm still wanting to kind of play a couple of the games that are nominated there, the ones that I at least can play without spending money. Or without spending as much money, because it is the Christmas season. So there's that. Thanksgiving's this week. We're preparing to go out of town. We're preparing to go back out of town again. Probably get some Black Friday shopping done in Greensboro, North Carolina. So we'll have some time in Roanoke with my mother-in-law and some time in Greensboro. So it's been quite a journey. And this all the while I am working on finishing up the editing for, well, eventually starting to finish up the editing for the franchise mode. For the franchise mode Super Bowl race stuff. and also getting to really enjoy just kind of life.
That's always a good sign there. Yeah, I've heard good things about Baldur's Gate. I always thought that D&D was kind of like you could like have Skyrim be that D&D-esque thing besides just the roll d20 or whatever. Like it would just be a straight up like you have a roll, you gotta play your objective and you gotta beat that objective. But yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah, the various degrees just make it makes it all the worth all the while.
And now, do you want to start things off with the starting lineups?
Oh yeah, that was exactly what I was waiting on us to get to.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So AL and NL Manager of the Year, Brandon Hyde and Skip Schumacher win their Manager of the Years. Brandon Hyde with the Orioles and Skip Schumacher with the Marlins. His first ever
I am very happy
managerial
for Brandon
award.
Hyde getting it. Very happy for Brandon Hyde because I think this is kind of one of those. You started to see the emergence of it last year, and now the culmination of it to then get the Orioles into this type of position. So I see why. And then the Marlins overall improved, and they were right there into the thick of it.
Yeah, and Skip Schumacher, former Cardinal, seemed to be a good fit over there.
Believe this also would.
And I think he was a former Marlin too, maybe.
I was more so into thinking of former World Series champion.
Well, that too, but I'm saying like former Cardinal as well.
And what shocks me is that he was a part of the Cardinals in the '06 season, but he did not appear in the postseason for the '06 championship, but still received a championship ring. So he technically is a two-time champion. He just was on the postseason roster for only the 2011. Never played for the Marlins. Never played for the Marlins. Was with the Cardinals for most of his career in 2005 to 2012. Played for the Dodgers in 2013, and then 14 and 15 he was a member of the Reds. 3 years later becomes a coach for the Padres, then moves to the Cardinals in 2022 before this year being his first year as a manager. So that kind of tells you a bit about Skip Schumacher.
Yep. All right, and then the NL and AL Cy Youngs. We have Blake Snell for the NL with the San Diego Padres.
Zilla.
Yep, and then we have Garrett Cole with the American League Nasties
Boo!
in the New York Yankees. Yes, I hear your boos.
Boo! I could
think
boo Snell as well because he was a Ray, but I don't hate him.
Well, the Rays are like a distant rival. It's like if the Chargers were a rival to the Chiefs in a sense. Like the Raiders are like the big rivalry, but the Chargers are kind of smaller in that sense, if that makes any sense. So like Garrett Cole as a Yankee getting it, I think that was a semi shoe in because let's be honest here. There was better options in the American League other than Garrett
Much
Cole.
better options.
Garrett Cole had probably one of his worst years as a pitcher, like last year and this year. Like, come on, dog. For some reason, I can't name one off the top of my head right now, but I would say either Nathan Eovaldi.
I had Sonny Gray.
That too. But like there were so many other options that you could have gone with, but you decided to go with the worst one.
Garrett
Anyways,
Cole, 15-4 with a 2.63 ERA, 222 strikeouts, and a .98 WHIP.
yep. And then did you already go over the stats of Blake Snow?
I had not done that yet, but
Go for it. Go for it.
Was a 2.25 ERA, only earned 45 earned runs, was 14-9, so it was tied for ninth there, but was the ERA champion, tied for third in strikeouts. It was 22nd in WHIP with a 1.19, 234 strikeouts, and a 2.25 ERA. So he basically won it because he was the ERA champion.
Nice. All right. Now we go to the AL and NL MVPs as Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Angels wins his second AL MVP, as Ronald Acuna also. I believe Acuna's won it more than twice, right?
I believe both in this case were unanimous, but I do believe that I think this is Acuna's first. I believe this is his first AL MVP. Yeah, or NL MVP. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it is his first NL MVP.
All right. Breaking news: Harrison Butker improves to 19 field goals made this season in a row. All right. Back to the sports here. A's are approved to go to Vegas, according to the MLB commissioner.
We are still rallying off some stats for Ronald Acuna and Shohei Ohtani.
My bad.
Okay, so Ronald Acuna hit .337 with 41 home runs, 106 RBIs with the 1.02 OPS, but also Acuna was also a 40-40 club member this year, also stealing 73 bases. An on-base percentage of 4.16 and an 8.1 WAR was what got Ronald Acuna the MVP. Now for Shohei Ohtani, he hit .304 with 44 home runs, had 151 hits, a 10 WAR, was also 8-5, or no, not 8, no, not 8-5. He also pitching wise, he also had pitching stats. Okay, he did pitch much of the year too, so that, and this is Shohei's second MVP. So he's been showing a two-way. He's been doing the two-way player thing. Oh, he finished 4-2 pitching wise with a 3.31 ERA. Oh wait, no, that's 2018. He finished 10-5 with a 3.14 ERA. Threw one shutout. That was one complete game. Struck out 167 and had a WHIP of 1.061. So Shohei was doing that on both sides, which is the biggest reason why it seems so rigged for him to get an MVP.
Well, he also balled out. The man exited a freaking starting pitching exit by having a finger injury and having a broken hand to literally like 2 innings later hitting a frickin' dinger. How many people do you know would be like, oh, so what? I have a broken hand. I'm just gonna rip a dinger real quick. I don't think anybody would. And for Otani to do that, goddamn.
I don't think it would surprise anyone for that.
The man is tough. All right, now do we want to talk about the A's, or did I already spill the beans?
Yeah, now we're gonna. Yeah, the A's have been greenlit to go to Vegas.
What happens in
And
Vegas stays in Vegas.
I feel bad for the Bay Area because now every single team has to go through San Francisco. The city of Oakland no longer has anything. You lose the Raiders, you lose the Athletics. The Warriors move themselves up to the other side of the bay in San Francisco. It's like Oakland has now become a desolate wasteland for sports. And I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas is able to change the name. So now we'll end up with a name change, most likely. Because there's no way you would go with the Las Vegas Athletics, stay with the same color scheme of green and yellow. That's not a very Vegas-like thing to do. Plus, it's an owner that honestly needs to sell that team anyway.
Yeah.
And Ruckus, what were some of the other major moves? I mean, there were a lot of players that got non-tendered, including Brandon Woodruff, Jacob Stallings,
Rhys Hoskins.
Rhys Hoskins, yeah. Shohei Otani has turned down his qualifying offer, so he's now a free agent. So we've got Otani watch, we've got Yamamoto watch.
We also have many other pitchers watch. As you probably didn't see till later today, Lance Lynn comes back to the Cardinals in a 1-year, $10 million deal. We had Aaron Nola sign yesterday with the Fighting Phils for 7 years, $172 million. We also had
less money to go elsewhere.
Right, and the Braves are really salty because they were giving him more than what the Phillies asked for. But I mean, if you're loyal to a franchise and you're comfortable where you're at, I don't blame them for staying. And even for that amount of money, it's like, damn, because like us folk over here probably won't see that in our entire lifetimes.
Yep.
But also. There were some trades that happened. I'll kind of touch on this a little bit. I believe the Royals got a couple trades. Nick Anderson for cash considerations, and then Kyle Wright for Jackson Kowar. And then there was the Aaron Bummer trade for 5 different players, including Nicky Lopez and another pitcher. And then I believe Ronaldo Lopez got signed by the Braves. So that was interesting. I haven't seen any other new signings as of late. I wouldn't be surprised if by next week we get like a bunch of signings happening, because I feel like a lot of other players are either taking more time to consider a deal, or they just aren't getting offers and they're waiting on those deals to get made. Who knows?
And I don't think that winter meetings haven't started yet.
Usually they start like a couple weeks in December, right? Like the first week. That's usually
something
when
like
they
that.
do it.
But the Hall of Fame ballot looks like it's been announced. And
Adrian Beltre.
Well, Bob Nightingale says Adrian Beltran, but that's just a mashup. But here we are. We have Bobby Abreu, Jose Bautista, Carlos Beltran, Adrian Beltre, Mark Burley, Big Sexy Bartolo Colon, Adrian Gonzalez, Todd Helton, Matt Holliday, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Victor Martinez, Joe Mauer, Andy Pettit, Brandon Phillips, Manny Ramirez. I should say, actually, in terms of Brandon Phillips, that dude, Man Ram, Jose Reyes, A-Rod, K-Rod, Jimmy Rollins, Gary Sheffield, James Shields, Chase Utley, Omar Vizquel, Billy Wagner, and David Wright.
Yes, sir.
There are a couple of names here that have been busted for PEDs. There's a couple of names that I think have been longtime mainstays for a franchise that I think need to be considered.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Mark Burley would be more of a Hall of Fame guy for the White Sox as a whole because of his no-hitter that he had at US Cellular. As far
I believe
as
Mark Burley would get in as a member of the White Sox.
I think Todd Helton deserves a nod. I think some of
As
the
a
ones that
Colorado
have been
Rocky and kind of one of those big name Colorado Rockies, yes, I agree with you on Todd Helton.
I don't know about
What?
Alex Rodriguez. I feel like he was a journeyman more than anything because he played for the Mariners, Rangers, and then played the rest of his career with the Yankees.
His stats back it up. But the PED thing, because of the integrity there, it could keep him out. It's the same thing with Manny Ramirez.
I feel like Manny was more like iconic because of like his braids. He looked like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh, I still will never forget Manny Ramirez at Camden Yards in left field, catching a fly ball, high-fiving a fan, and then throwing out the guy running back to first.
Did Vlad Guerrero get put into the Hall of Fame? Vlad Guerrero Sr.?
I believe Vlad Sr. Too sure if Vlad Sr. got in. Vlad's in. Senior. No, Vladimir Guerrero is not in yet. Oh no, Vladimir Guerrero is in.
Sweet.
He was a 2018 inductee.
Nice.
So
All
here
right.
are the names that I would definitely highly consider. If you want to talk about longtime mainstays for a franchise that deserve to get in, Joe Mauer. I believe that Joe Mauer, as a Minnesota Twin, should get into the Hall.
That and Adrian Beltre.
Here's the hard part about Beltre, though. Would he go in as a Dodger, or would he go in as a Ranger?
Probably the latest feat. Because if we're talking about what they did in their past and near the end, because like the whole controversy about the Hall of Fame was like, oh well, this player did steroids near the end of their career and screwed up their baseball history and this and that, and it's just like, okay, well that was like near the end of their career. So how do you want to play this devil's advocate? Do we want to go based off the early days before they supposedly took PEDs, or? And I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying like I feel like there's two sides of the sword.
I will say this: if Manny Ramirez were to get in, I believe Manny Ramirez would take the Boston hat.
Yeah, because like after that, it was the Rays and Dodgers. So like,
Mark Burley, it's the White Sox. If Carlos Beltran, minus the sign stealing issue, gets in, he either would take the Royals or the Mets.
I think he would take the Royals. In all honesty, I think he's already a Royals Hall of Famer.
I think he'd take the Mets, but that's also. Oh, Jimmy Rollins is in there too. I think Jimmy Rollins.
Jim, sir. Jim.
Brandon Phillips, incredibly underrated. And I don't think his numbers will back it up, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Phillips would get in. I think Gary Sheffield, it would be interesting to see where he ends up.
I'm surprised that guy hasn't gotten a Hall of Fame nod at all. That guy's a legend.
With Gary Sheffield?
Yeah. Is it because he took PEDs, or is it a different reason?
I think he lines up with the era. Could be the issue.
Also, how many years do you have until you get knocked out of the running for?
Sure. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Because I thought there was like a cutoff of how many years you could try to go for the ballot, and then you're just kind of just not known as a Hall of Famer, or maybe I'm wrong and it just keeps going until you eventually get it.
Okay, so to be eligible, a player has to have played 10 seasons in the big leagues, been active in Major League Baseball between 5 to 15 years before the Hall of Fame election. The player must also be 5 calendar years removed from their Major League Baseball playing career, but can still be connected to the sport and league through coaching or business opportunities. To be on the 2024 ballot, a player's final game had to be in 2018 or earlier. If a player who has not been retired for the full 5 years dies, the candidate is eligible for the next regular election. If it is held at least 6 months after the date of death, and after the end of the first 5 year period, whichever occurs first. Any player on baseball is ineligible. List people prohibited from playing or working in professional baseball are not eligible. And 75% of the voter ballots have to select them into the Hall of Fame. Active and honorary members of the Baseball Writers Association of America who have been active baseball writers for at least 10 years, for a maximum of 10 players. So there are some stringent qualifications, and it is 10 years for baseball ballots. So you have 10 years to get in. And then I think it goes up to like an upper committee. Can you get to the Baseball Hall of Fame after there's a 10 years past? Each year, about 30 to 40 players get nominated. So there's a lot of different things that he appeared on the Barry Bonds has appeared on the Contemporary Era Committee ballot last December, but received fewer than the necessary 12 votes from the 16-person panel. So there are some things that could shift around. And baseball's got the most difficult Hall of Fame to get in. You can be incredibly good for a long period of time and still not even see it.
Yep. All right. Are we ready for our Eastwood segment?
Yep. Take it away.
All right. Here we go. All right. For our good this week in sports, we have the MLB makes right with the Braves following the moving of the 2021 All-Star Game that was in Atlanta to Colorado, as Truist Park will host the 2025 All-Star Game. If you were not in the loop of what happened back then or forgot, in 2021 the Atlanta Braves were supposed to host the All-Star game in Atlanta, but they got their hosting rights revoked and moved the games to Colorado due to voting issues among, I believe it was younger uh, ethnicities, right? Or was it just in general like voting issues for the All-Star game?
Okay, so Atlanta was awarded the 2021 All-Star game in May of 2019, but just 3 months before the game was played, the MLB moved it, and critics complained then that voting rights changes were too restricted. But Atlanta lost it due to objections over the voting law. As far as Georgia, over the objections to the changes in Georgia's voting rights laws. So the state was dealing with an issue, and due to the political climate in the state of Georgia at the time of the 2021 All-Star game, that is why the MLB decided to regroup in sending that game to Coors Field rather than Truist Park. So, coming back to 2025, this should be a make right. However,
Yeah.
again, the scary difficulty of this is that this is the year following an election year. So that puts the Braves in a little bit of a predicament.
Just be the good guy rather than the bad guy at this point. When it comes to the eye of the rules, I guess you could say.
And then the not so good involves Alek Manoah.
So the Blue Jays are trying to seek a trade for Alek Manoah after his disastrous season, but also this could be a rebirth for Manoah since, from what I listened to on Fuzzy's video today, shout out Fuzzy, he was talking about how Alex Manoah lost some weight and he got some surgery on his forearm or something. So he might be in better shape, but who knows? My guess is, depending on what his contract is worth or what he is worth just currently, I would say he gets traded like to a lower market team if they're willing to take the bite of a cap space or just money per team. I think this is bad for the Blue Jays because Manoah has one bad year, and yeah, it was a terrible year. He went down to the minors like 2 months after the season started, and then didn't come back till like near the end of the summer, and then went back to the minors after the fact, or he was told to go back, but he didn't want to. So it's like that, and he had command issues and gave up so many runs, making his ERA just absolutely terrible. And he was a bust for my MLB fantasy last season. But anyways, what was ugly, Mr. Spenace?
The ugly. It is involved. It unfortunately has to involve the NFL, which we try to keep this segment away from, at least at the current moment, due to most of our talk being in the NFL season. But this is the perfect time to transition over, as the ugly involves a drone flying into M&T Bank Stadium. It is currently being investigated by the Federal Aviation Administration, or pretty much the FAA, as drones are barred from flying within 3 miles of a stadium holding at least 30,000 people. So the real question is number one, do you really police this? And two, how did this drone get even, other than just flying over the top and not realizing it, how did it even get in there in the first place? Like it's baffling. It's ugly. It's ugly in the sense that drones are kind of one of those things that can be a distraction. Can put something in the consideration of now possibly having every single NFL team have a dome. But that would make every condition be perfect, which ruins kind of the factor of the wind. So you kind of get stuck between a rock and a hard place involving drones. But this is the same game with Baltimore and Cincinnati, and I'm just going to use this right now to transition straight into the high heat, where the first game that we will be talking about is Baltimore 34, Cincinnati 20. And the question here, which injury is more devastating to their particular team in the landscape of the AFC North race? Joe Burrow or Mark Andrews?
Well, I
Earth to
kind of
Ruckus.
I put a foot in my mouth last week, I will admit, where I was like, the Bengals are going to win out. But I didn't think that Burrow was going to have a freaking ligament in his
Injury.
wrist that would go down. But you also had the Ravens, and Andrews is down with an ankle sprain, which will probably take a few weeks to heal.
On top of that, the tackle of which Mark Andrews got injured on. Had you heard this whole thing about a hip drop tackle?
Is that illegal or?
It is currently legal in the NFL. However, injuries have been caused because of this tackle, of which the NFL now, in terms of player safety, is set to be looking to ban it.
Yeah, I don't really pay attention. I don't pay attention to the defensive tackles and stuff that could be safe or not safe in the NFL. But if it is bad to the point where people get more hurt or get concussed, yeah, that's not good. Also, when it comes to like those helmet to helmets, I kind of don't want to see that as much. Like not just because of concussions, it just looks bad on the NFL cuz like the whole I I yeah, it just doesn't look the greatest. But in general, you're going to get concussions no matter what in the game. It's just how do we eliminate it from happening not as often?
Well, you have to mitigate. It's like a lot of mitigating it. The Guardian helmets help. Like you just don't want the whole NFL to go into now. Oh, now the NFL has to have a Guardian helmet, like the Guardian helmet cap for football games.
Yeah, that and like I don't know. The movie Concussion with Will
Will
Smith was
Smith.
very depressing because they go on about former NFL players that had CTE. And I don't. Part of me feels like that whole discussion with CTE could be a whole different ball field where there's a player that played in the NFL for a long time that now is retired and then turns out to have a normal life and not try to murder his children or wife or whatever like other NFL players were, or just go insane like Antonio Brown. Like Antonio Brown, I think in
The
general
problem
his
is that you can't diagnose CTE until after the person that could have it is dead.
yeah.
So Antonio Brown even trying to say that he has it while he's alive. This is a complete digression of what the original question was, by the way.
Yeah, like but what I'm saying is some people have like head traumas and stuff like that and it like affects them more than others do, you know? Whereas some people just behave normally. They don't like cause slaughter of their family or whatever you would kind of see. Like, I think it just depends on the situation, but also just how the relationship is with the families and stuff. Like, I don't know. It's very hard to tell with that. Anyways, let's go on to the next one.
The second question involving this, and this also was that the Steelers and Browns played each other. What has now become of the AFC North at this point? The Browns defeated the Steelers 13-10. Baltimore and Cincinnati, this kind of how does this affect the landscape of the AFC North?
I think if anything, if the Browns and Steelers defenses can keep up their good work and then and then somehow push out a win, like push out a turd, that's probably good enough. But like the Browns and the Steelers both have really good defenses, but the Browns at the end of the day just seem to be the better team. As you can see, they won 13-10 against the Steelers. Baltimore versus Cincinnati, that one was more of a just, I guess, not the greatest matchup once you don't have your star QB with the Bengals. And they also didn't have T. Higgins, but their main culprit was Burrow with the hand injury. So it's like, you got to deal with that. You also have to deal with Lamar Jackson and the receivers he has. Like, it's gonna be an interesting one, but I don't see the
Cleveland also played
Bengals.
without Deshaun Watson. Like there are a lot of players out that are major.
That's why I said their defenses kind of like clash in a sense between the Browns and Steelers.
Nick Chubb, done for the year. J.K. Dobbins, done for the year. Joe Burrow, done for the year. Deshaun Watson, looking like
Done.
he is done for the year.
Shoulder surgery.
Yep. So really, it's been a lot of major injury. Mark Andrews looks like he could be IR'd. So you've got a lot of injuries going on there. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are hamstrung by their offensive coordinator. Cleveland Browns have done more with less, but are hamstrung by being indecisive about who QB2 is. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is now starting to kind of find a little bit of a role in getting to those receivers, but how is that going to translate to the postseason? Cincinnati, I think they are on the outside looking in. I think it will be either Baltimore or Cleveland that will win the division, and I am more so hopeful for Cleveland simply because they have looked like the more defensively dominant team. They are a team that I think could keep the explosiveness of the Ravens in check. The next pair of games that we are dissecting here, Lions 31, or have a question with, is the Lions 31, Bears 26, and Texans 21, Cardinals 16. The question here with these two, are D'Amico Ryans and Motor City Dan Campbell your frontrunners for Coach of the Year? If so, who is more likely to take the award?
Okay, I'm gonna say this. When did Dan Campbell become coach of the Detroit Lions? Like 2 years ago? About 2 or 3 years?
I believe this is year 3.
So
Year
here's
3,
the thing.
maybe 4.
I would say the success story for Campbell makes it to where I think he's the coach of the year, and just how he's played through and helped his squad grow better and better over the years. D'Amico Ryan just started from the bottom, so he's not here yet. But like, I don't. I think he's still got a ways to go. Um, but who's more
Well, you
likely? I
got
think it's
rookie head.
Dan Campbell.
Okay, with Dan Campbell, it is program that had to start from the rock bottom, and every single year, and Dan Campbell has had to rally the team around. And over the past couple of years, Dan Campbell has progressively had this team climb and climb and climb. To now we're at the Detroit Lions, dominant teams in the NFC, let alone also possibly the NFL. However, D'Amico Ryans, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, rookie number 1 wide receiver, rookie edge rusher, second year corner. A lot of young talent around. Pretty much the best player of the Houston Texans was their left tackle. So in order to really get this team really rallying together on all cylinders, D'Amico Ryans had to do something.
Yeah. I'm not discounting D'Amico Ryan. I'm just saying I think the much easier story to follow is the Dan Campbell story.
With
'Cause,
D'Amico
like,
Ryans, it's the meteoric rise versus Dan Campbell. It's basically the hair in D'Amico Ryans versus kind of the turtle race going on with Motor City Dan Campbell.
that's exactly it.
It's just a matter of how quickly you start climbing.
All right, the next one.
Get the last pair. Green Bay 23, LA Chargers 20, Giants 31, Commanders 19. The question here is the writing on the wall starting to show itself for the firings of Brandon Staley and Ron Rivera on Black Monday?
I think it's more likely for Ron Rivera. I feel like the Chargers just barely got beat by the Packers, and they've had those just barely stuff happen for like the past like 2 or 3 years or more than that. So part of me thinks Staley's probably. I mean, I just said that I doubt Staley is not as hot on the seat as Ron Rivera, but I think both of them are eventually going to get fired. But if anything, I think Staley's the first, but Ron Rivera might be the guy that gets booted first. I don't know. It depends. I'm not the GM at the end of the day. I'm not the one that kicks out the coach because they underperformed or didn't do it the job. Rivera just seems more like a boneheaded, down the dirt personality when it comes to coaching. Like just kind of just does whatever he feels is good, but it isn't the smartest. Staley, it's more just too gutsy at times, and then gets screwed over in the end. But also, it just isn't smart with the play clock and just how to do certain situations. Because, like, with Ron Rivera, it's just like, oh, I didn't know that Sam Howell existed. And it's like, dude, he was on your sideline. He made your roster. What the hell do you mean he he didn't see that? Whereas Staley, it's like, oh, we had semi-bad luck, but also, like, I didn't make those crucial plays in a timely manner, and I didn't learn from it. So it's like, which side is worse? Was that a good explanation, or was that just a crappy ramble? I feel like that was a mixture of both.
I think the tea leaves are kind of more in the showing of the demise of Brandon Staley. And the reason why is because the Chargers are supposed to be that team that's kind of been creeping on the doorstep of the AFC West, trying to mess around and contend with the Chiefs year in and year out. They're kind of that team that's just stuck. And Brandon Staley has gotten them nothing short of stuck.
Yeah.
So I think that the Los Angeles Chargers need a complete change in direction. And that should start with the firing of Brandon Staley. No questions asked.
In an alternate universe, he's 13-2.
Beside the point. However, let me strike my issues on the riverboat. Or should I say it maybe not so much the riverboat, but he's been kind of coaching this team now more like rowboat Ron.
On the Rivera? Or Riviera?
This the boat here with Ron Rivera. There are times where they are rolling along and it feels good. You see the resilience. You see Sam Howell making great plays to get us back into games. But then you see Sam Howell make a very costly mistake. See the Commanders continue to find ways to shoot themselves in the foot because the talent is not there. This is still currently a team designed in structure by old Danny Boy. The full reins of what Josh Harris is to do with this team, I don't feel has truly started yet. This is still a year. This is the official final year of Danny Boy.
Right. Especially because he got in mid-season, right?
Just before the season started, but really it was his entry was well after the draft, well after minicamp, well after OTAs, well after all the free agency things that Washington could or could not have done in forming trades. So really, Josh Harris has more so been spending most of this time really assessing where to go, what to kind of have as a direction. So we really haven't seen what the Josh Harris era is fully going to look like in its form yet. Is this going to involve firing Ron Rivera? It should.
Yeah, I agree.
It should. And here's why. You want to remove a lot of the things and the bad traces of what Dan Snyder has brought upon the Washington Commanders? Fire Ron. And have him take Jack Del Rio and this defense that can't cover that with a secondary that can't cover their mouths when they cough, just like they can't cover a corner. So it's like they can't lock their bike to a post. They can't lock down a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Are some things getting better? Sort of. Could Sam Howell be possibly the quarterback of the future? Get him the right tools around him, and something could happen. And it's almost like Josh Harris is just looking for that possibility of being able to start over and really start this team from a much worse point and work themselves back up. I don't think we need to tank for a quarterback. I think we just, of course, try and win some games, get us somewhere along. But whether or not that ends up being the case is up to really what's going on here.
Yeah.
And now we move on to our Thanksgiving edition of Color Commentary, as we are doing a Players As. So our Thanksgiving stuff here, based off of this season, the player, team, or coach, or even situation as a whole that is most like the following Thanksgiving Day staple. The best parts of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Where do you fill in that blank?
I would say Rob Gronkowski.
Rob Gronkowski. Are you saying, like, even off of this season? Even Rob Gronkowski in his retirement?
What would you say is your best parade thing? I want to see what you say, so I could get a basis.
I think the best parts of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, you have a lot of great aerial stuff. You have a lot of stuff that kind of marches to a beat of a rallying drum with the marching band. You have all these different elements and performances that kind of run well together. And even in an area that is somewhat cold in the Christmas landscape, I am taking the Detroit Lions as what I feel has been the best parts of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, with great floating passing from Jared Goff, the groundwork set up with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, the defense marching to the rallying cries and being able to do well. Motor City Dan Campbell, kind of the main marshal and maestro of the band that is this team. I am saying the Detroit Lions.
Okay, this might sound cliche, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna say the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs, because let me tell you, the Chiefs defense in the past, since I've been alive, has been absolute butt. Like, it's been ass. Like,
Chiefs have been not known for it.
well, here's the thing. My point exactly. Dude, you could literally put a hot knife through that defense and it would melt. And there was no ifs and buts about it. The offense was the carrying factor for the Chiefs for the longest time before this season. This season, our defense has improved dramatically compared to the other years. The other years were like, let's fire Steve Spagnuolo. Let's fire Steve Spagnuolo. Hey, let's fire Steve Spagnuolo. Hey, you know it'd be a good idea. Let's fire Steve Spagnuolo. Instead, we keep Steve Spagnuolo, and our defense gets even better because we have a bunch of young guys, a mix of young and semi-old, that are working together that actually give a damn. And that's my favorite thing about it. I was thinking, okay, here comes the stereotypical Chiefs defense where we don't really do shit and we're just mediocre at best on defense. Instead, even without Chris Jones on the field the first game, we make an impact. It didn't matter if Chris Jones was on the field. Hell, it didn't matter when he was on the field against the Texans in the AFC divisional game in 2019, because we beat the Texans' ass that game too. But the most important thing to note, and my point to this rant, is the Chiefs' defense is the real deal. A lot of people on fantasy, more recently on fantasy football, dropped the Chiefs' defense, and I kept it because I feel like the Chiefs' defense is the real deal. Our offense, on the other hand, is kind of taking the reign of what the defense used to be, but that's because we have a bunch of young dudes. We're trying to mesh them to the offense. Also, Mahomes can't get away from defenders to save his life when it comes to the offensive line, but we're working on it. At least Jawan Taylor isn't getting holding calls or false start calls every 10 seconds like he did at the beginning of the year. But anyways, Chiefs defense is my best of parts of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, as they will sack any turkey or any ham or anything from the table. Better watch out. All right.
Okay, so now the next one, the turducken. Pretty much the main, although most people would say the main meat there would be a turkey, the turducken is clearly, though I've never had it, but people have loved it. People have enjoyed the surprise of it. The turkey with the duck inside, finished off with a chicken. So, which team is, or which player, team, coach has kind of set themselves up to be kind of the main star of the show?
Um, that's a good question. I would have to say because there were a lot of good ones. Because at the beginning of the season, you had Devin A. Chain, uh, being pretty much the guy that no one saw come through the radar. And then you had some random apparent approaches by different things. Um, I that one's a tough one for me too. I guess I would say the stuffing man. I would have to say is Eric
No,
Bieniemy.
we are the turducken. So Eric Bieniemy with the turducken.
Yeah, he's been the guy that pretty much saves the offense for the Commanders for the most part. Keeps them in the game.
Taking Christian McCaffrey. This guy has been the constant star of the San Francisco 49ers offense. Yes, you have Deebo Samuel. Yes, you have Brandon Ayuk. Yes, you have the animal George Kittle. But Christian McCaffrey is the one that ultimately, no matter what the situation, has been the one punching the ball into the end zone. And Christian McCaffrey has normally been the one person that has electrified fantasy football. So, in terms of this shape, it's Christian McCaffrey. No questions asked.
All right, stuffing.
The stuffing. We're going to say this. Something that kind of some people think it's mid. but it becomes that really, but it's an underrated and has been surprisingly really good.
All right, Harrison Butker made field goals because the man has been known to really stuff the ball when it comes to field goals and missing a lot of them or just being a mixed bag. But this year he has not missed, and he still hasn't. He, like I said earlier, has 19 straight perfect field goals.
It feels like I'm kind of maybe sounding a little bit like a broken record here, or just kind of really, really enjoying what the Detroit Lions are doing. I'm taking Jared Goff here. Has been like everyone's kind of like, oh, Jared Goff, this quarterback is so mid. Like he is probably the one quarterback that everybody thinks is like, if you're thinking absolute average, middle of the road quarterback, Jared Goff. That is where he goes. Not exactly. Because Jared Goff has been playing, surprisingly, very well. And that very well has also translated into the Detroit Lions being in the position that they are currently in right now. The mashed potatoes. In this case, while we have the stuffing being kind of the mid person, who is a player or a coach or some sort of team that has kind of been a glue that really holds things together?
I'm gonna say Creed Humphrey, the center for.
Homer, Homer, Homer. I have not picked a single commander.
You're just mad because the Eagles haven't won yet against the Chiefs.
Homer, Homer.
I picked the enemy
Homer.
earlier, so shut it.
That still is a Homer pick, though.
He's on the Commanders now. Hush.
He's on the Commanders because of four Chiefs offensive coordinator.
Hush.
You're not. You're not getting away with it, at least that easily.
Jerk.
But the glue guy that I am actually going to be really kind of speaking on. Would it be bad if I said that the glue guy that's kind of held a team really together may be the one player that has done very much in terms of the receiving end for none other than the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the glue guy that has kind of helped keep that offense set, A.J. Brown. And now we get to some of the other more interesting ones. The annoying sibling sitting next to you at the table.
I gotta say it. I'm gonna say Aaron Rodgers because that man is crazy in a sense where he thinks that he's gonna be able to come back this season after tearing his Achilles, and I think that it could happen, but I think it's a short-lived thing. We'll see. But he popped it like literally the fourth play of the season starting, so I think he's that annoying sibling sitting next to you because he's just gonna be in your ear and then say all this crap. And even ESPN was like hyping up the whole Rogers to the Jets thing for like a month or two. So I think he still goes at it.
I know that normally we would be thinking, oh, this is a player issue. The real answer that I want to put here is the Swiftie so obsessed with why Taylor is dating Travis Kelce. But because I can't go with a person outside of the standard pacing of the NFL, on the other hand, I am going to have to do this way. The annoying sibling sitting next to me at the table in this kind of context is more so a I would say he's not quite the smartest person. He's not quite the person that really cares about a ton of things, especially when it comes to how he wants to run things. I am going with Arthur Smith. And like, oh, you want to talk about your favorite film? Like, fantasy football sucks. We're not talking analysts.
Dang it.
Although I honestly, if we would have done that, I would have done the annoying person sitting next to you being Joe Buck or Tony Romo. All right. So, what team, players, or team, or coaches, or something like that, are the two people fighting over the wishbone?
I'm gonna say the Giants and Cowboys because the Giants really look like the team that is like trying to tank, and then the Cowboys, like, they've been touted to be like a bad team, and then they like beat up on the Giants, and then the Giants beat up on the Commanders. So it's just like, who really wants to lose badly, or who wants to be the worst team?
I'm going with Jamar Chase and the Cleveland Browns. Because why in the world else, other than that Jamar Chase is fighting over the wishing of the Cleveland Browns not being called the Browns, and the Jamar Chase saying that the Cleveland Browns should be the Cleveland Elves. We lost to the Elves. Okay, so which player is the person overly eager to get the Christmas decor up as soon as dinner is done? Or they have it up before people arrive at the Thanksgiving Day table?
um, I don't know. Probably Travis Kelce.
You have that because I was just about to write that down. I'm gonna let you have that.
Sorry, I just saw an awesome defensive play after we just got a fumble on our side. Kelce fumbled the ball. That is Travis Kelce, and now we just had a good defensive stop. And for a second there, I thought the catch was gonna be an interception that would get us to their goal line, and then we would get another 10-point lead. But so far, that hasn't happened. But we did get a big stop. All right. A person overly eager to get Christmas decor up. I feel like. Wait, are you
can
actually
have it
giving
with
me?
Travis Kelsey.
Okay,
You can have
okay.
it with Travis Kelsey because you
I
were.
because I was thinking about Kelsey, but at the same time, I was just thinking, shit, he just took it because I saw him type it. So I was just like, all right, I'll try to figure something else out. But thank you for being a great sport. I appreciate it. I don't maybe Rob Gronkowski,
He's
or
not even in
like
the NFL anymore.
or Tony Romo, but you said no sports analysts.
Yeah. I think at this point,
What about
the
George
first
Kittle?
George Kittle is a crazy, he is crazy funny.
The Steve Buscemi of football.
The Little Caesars commercials with him and Cameron Jordan are just genius.
Yeah, where they're like, "How'd you guys spend the off season? Pizza party, sleepover."
Okay, so now the Snorlax who has his food coma after stuffing their face.
Hmm.
Where
Can
are
this
you
be
going?
Can this be actually outside the NFL?
Where are you going with this? Who are you going to
Um,
say?
I was gonna for Ron Rivera's last season, but I'm gonna actually say Tonio La Russa because he actually fell asleep during, or was falling asleep during an MLB game like last year. Well, actually, let's cut that out. Let's cut that out. Hmm. You go ahead and start it off.
It's like a play, like kind of where it kind of feels like a player who we would thought was going to really, really produce, but has done nothing.
I kind of
Somebody you
wanted to
really.
go after a coach or something. Like,
Oh, you could.
actually,
Oh, you actually do have the right liberty to go after a coach.
I'm doing Josh McDaniels because he got the
And
role as a Raiders coach, and then he just kind of screwed it up. He had the pieces. He had Jimmy G, and he had Devontae Adams, and then he just blew it.
I think that this, and I do not feel bad for saying this. I do not feel bad. The horrible string of luck at times, terrible management, blowing a lead to end his postseason run. The Snorlax here is Brandon Staley.
All right.
And now, the antsy Black Friday shopper.
I'm going to say the 49ers at the trade deadline, as they went for not only because they went after Chase Young, but then they also went for another guy, which is blanking me right now. Or actually, no. How about the fire sale of the Commanders?
I don't think it's a complete fire sale yet.
Or the Commanders trading Sweat, uh, Young, and who else did they trade? Was it TJ Edwards? Wait, no, that's a different guy.
I think it was just Montez Sweat, Chase Young.
I thought they traded another guy too. Yeah, let's just say Commanders trading Sweat and Young, and then what do you think for yours?
I actually am going to take the Minnesota Vikings. where they basically got very, very antsy after Kirk Cousins went down, traded for Josh Dobbs, and look at what the biggest benefit of Josh Dobbs has been.
Yep, he has been a good deal so far.
Yep.
All right.
So now we go right into the film room. And I know that my pick is currently not held up as well, although it is
we're
now
down. You're down by 3. Calm down.
it's a 3-point game. But the Eagles could have a chance at this thing. But we got a good amount of players up for, or good amount of pick points up for grabs. I am currently up by 11, but if the Chiefs win, I would be up by 6. If the Eagles manage to come back and win this thing, I am up by 16. As 5 points were up for grabs. The first game that we have going on, and we're going to start at college football. We have the Oregon Ducks going up against the Oregon State Beavers in the Civil War. I'm taking the Ducks.
Yep, I am taking the Ducks as well, as they had the better record and just better overall against the Beavers.
Well, yeah, and what kind of Mickey Mouse organization would name their team the Ducks?
I don't know about that. Sorry.
Did you not realize what I just quoted there?
Donald.
I actually quoted a movie.
Was it the Mighty Ducks?
No, it was Space Jam.
Oh, well,
It
sorry.
was Space Jam, where I think that Bugs were. Remember when they had to go to the trophy room and where Bugs and Daffy had to go to the Jordan's house and get into the trophy room, and they're on the golf course where they drag Jordan in.
Okay.
Yeah. Or Daffy Duck said, the Duck. Now, what kind of Mickey Mouse organization would name their team the Duck? All right, so our biggest points. Number 2, Ohio State versus number 3, Michigan. Are you going with the Buckeyes or the Cheaters?
I'm going with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I also am going Ohio State.
And then Georgia Tech, Georgia.
Yep, clean, old-fashioned hate.
And also, they're absolute
dogs.
There you go.
I'm
Alabama, Auburn.
Taking Georgia. I'm taking the Tide in the Iron Bowl.
I'm taking the Auburn Tigers because I want to see if Bama gets hit. Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Wait, whoa! You just went and said War Eagle on this.
I sure did.
Auburn is not ranked.
All right, well, just laugh in my face next episode.
Last but not least, the battle for Paul Bunyan's axe, which was originally a slab of bacon.
I'm picking Minnesota.
I'm taking the Golden Gophers as well. We are not picking Actually, I think we should. I know I don't like the fact that I'm going to be picking my Commanders involved in all this, but these are some good one-pointers to also go in. We're actually going to pick every single Thanksgiving Day game. And we are going to start up at the top with Detroit and Green Bay.
All right. I'm gonna say that Detroit wins,
Yep, I'm taking the Lions.
and then Dallas, Washington. I'm going to say Dallas.
This is tradition. That I'm going on the sake of pure tradition. I I have to do it because Dallas is absolutely spawns of Satan. I'm taking the Commanders. And then
All right.
49ers Seahawks, I'm going with the 49ers as well.
Hmm. Jaguars versus Texans. Okay, I'm going Texans, and
I
then
I I I like where the Texans are going with this, but I'm taking the Jaguars in the sense that this is more so for control of the division. And I believe the Jaguars need to seize it. I'm
Bills, Eagles. I'm gonna take the
taking the
Eagles.
taking the taking the Eagles over the Bills,
Chiefs
taking the
over the
Chiefs over the
Raiders,
Raiders.
and then I think
I am taking the Steelers over the Bengals.
I'm gonna say Steelers. Just due to their gritty defense.
Right, and we are instead of the wild card lock, we are doing the anytime touchdown scorers this week. Now, the condition here, if we get none, we lose 2 points. You just got to get one to keep your score where it is. 2 of them you get 1 point, but if you get all 3, it's 3 points. And who are the 3 players that you are choosing for your anytime touchdown scorer?
All right, I have Isaiah Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions, and Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers.
News with 6:20 to go. Touchdown, Eagles. Jalen Hurts with another rushing touchdown, probably off of a brotherly shove. But my three, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb, Michael Pittman Jr., and Jahmyr Gibbs. And now, before Ruckus all of a sudden gets mad that I just said "Fly, Eagles, fly," and they just scored, we're gonna get to our stud dud.
All right, and I also want to enjoy the rest of the game. Thank you very much. All right, so for my stud and dud at least, my stud plus honorable mention involves barbecue. Trey Smith treating his family to barbecue at Jack Stack. Sounds like a nice little fellow there, the right guard of the Kansas City Chiefs. And then on honorable mention, the Monday Night Football crew, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they tried Q39 barbecue over in Kansas City while on tour for Monday Night Football. And then my dud, which is kind of a crappy one, but it was the only one I could find. Zach Wilson being benched for Tim Boyle. So
Yeah, I definitely think the Zach Wilson dud was definitely valid. But my stud this week is a little bit simpler. Jimmy Butler pulling his best rendition of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and performing the skyhook, and he made it. But my dud, hilarious as it is, the Ohio State University defense for racking up multiple unsportsmanlike conduct penalties for posing in the end zone following a pick. Just like the numerous teams in the NFL do, as you see how they all sprint to the end zone and they just go and they pose. Flag down. And of course, it must have been the same one, but the ref singled out every player involved, including even saying one player's number twice when describing the penalty. And he said, for posing right at the very end of it. So I don't know if this is more done on Ohio State or more done on the ref, but it was a very Dudley of Dudley.
Dudley.
Yep. Go ahead and take us out, Ruckus.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast, episode number 77. This has been a Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast production. Thank you for listening, as always, and also subscribe if you enjoy our content and would like more, and also make sure to watch our Super Bowl race videos that happen every Friday. Usually,
well, I will be releasing on Thursday from now on to kind of change the cadence of everything. I will now be releasing on Thursdays.
All right. So, yep. And then yeah, that's pretty much all I have now. Thank you for listening again to our podcast, and we'll see you guys later.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Shut up. Go Chiefs. Anyway, see y'all later.
Deuces.